Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, The Single Life. Let's watch.
Oh, that looks so gooey. I think it's definitely one of the weirder things about me that I get off to cooking and baking videos, but there are way weirder fetishes out there, in my opinion. But hey, some people like cock, I like cake. Ooh la la.
Okay, so that's content I didn't know was going to happen. Yeah. Well, at first I thought she was just making a joke, that she was just really into cooking videos. But as a metaphor, but now she's saying, no, she literally gets turned on and uses the videos, the cooking videos, if you will, uses them. And yeah, totally. There's kinks are fine. Kinks are great. It's consensual. It's wonderful. It's just a part of human beauty, and it's fine. You know, she that's what I've never heard of that kink, but you know, I could see it. You know, food. A lot of people have food fetishes, and you know, she has hers. I don't know why they had to show that. Is that relevant to the story? Maybe.
In my life, because so much in the past, people have like accused me of like not presenting myself accurately.
Okay.
So I'm bisexual.
Okay.
Yeah, what about you? Where do you?
I'm pretty straight.
You're pretty straight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good. So, you know, just this micro moment that she's upfront. And she says, you know, I've been accused of not being upfront with people. And certainly we've seen people on the show who are not upfront. And so she's just right off the bat, at the very beginning of the day. People ask me this question, you know, when do you reveal certain things about yourself? When do you ask certain questions? And I say, you know, whenever you want to. And when are you supposed to? You know, I don't know. Being bisexual, that could be a dangerous thing in some circles and some communities to admit to someone that you don't know, someone you don't trust. So are you obligated to say in the first date? No, absolutely not. You know, but it's a question that we should all ask ourselves. You know, when is it at what threshold is it unfair that I don't offer this up to this person I'm dating?
Much luck in finding a man.
Some days I'm like full on lesbian because I'm just like, nope, I can't date any more men. And then some days I'm just like, women are crazy. I think men are a little bit like lower maintenance. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's sexist?
Yeah, I think you're a monster. I'm canceling you immediately. No.
No, men are not less maintenance. No. That's the stereotype, and that certainly is what the patriarchy wants us all to believe. But you walk around the block enough times, you're like, no, men are just as high maintenance as anyone else. Like, gender has nothing to do with how much maintenance or how much work or how much drama someone can create in their life. Now, men are socialized to be more likely to be avoidant and narcissistic, and women are socialized more likely to be preoccupied, borderline, histrionic, codependent, dependent. But no, but you know, it's fine that they are having this conversation.
I do feel more comfortable around women. I feel that women just understand each other a lot better, but dating women is difficult because men don't read between the lines. Women do.
Okay, so is this what this is going to turn into? Me just reacting to sexism? I have a feeling like Stephanie's going to trigger me a lot. It's fine that Stephanie, in her experience, has found that women, people who identify as women, can quote unquote read between the lines. I'm guessing what she means by that, based on what I know about her, is that she has found that women can read her mind more, have more empathy, have more like intuition about like, oh, am I hurting your feelings right now? That kind of thing. And men don't. That would be my suspicion. Yeah, women are socialized to be that way more often. Men are socialized not to, but it's not like men can't. It's not like men don't, right? And do we think that Erica read between the lines as a woman with I don't think Stephanie would say that. I don't think Stephanie would say, yeah, Erica definitely read, but maybe she's been with a lot of other women. So I'm hearing from Stephanie that she has had a lot of rough times with relationships. It sounds like that with both men and women. I didn't show all the clips, but it sounds like she says she's been looking for her soulmate and she hasn't found one yet. And I suspect that, she's had some rough times, some bad moments in relationships, and she's trying to organize her world. And this is what people will do, right? You will be failing and something's not working, and so you start to build this system. It's sort of like it's analogous to, I'd go to the casino with my friends back in the day, and when you start to win, you're playing blackjack, you're like, oh, I won like 15 out of 20 hands, and now I have this stack of chips. What did I do that I won? And then you start losing, and then later on you start thinking, okay, what did I do different? You start thinking, it's just kind of random. Like, there are certain conventions that you follow with certain games, but it's luck, and law of averages, you're going to lose money to the casino. So, but there was this temptation among me and my friends to start devising, okay, and we would get into some really weird conventions, some really weird rule systems of like, okay, if I lose, like I had a friend that said, if I lose, I'm just going to double my bet for the next one. And then if I lose that one, then I'm going to double my bet for that one. So, if I bet $5 and I win, then I take the $5 and I leave the $5 out there. But if I lose, I put $10 out there. Because if I win back that money. And if I lose $10, then I put, $30 because, I'm $15 in. And if I win all my money back. And if I lose, I put whatever the total amount there is. And of course, when we understand statistics, that's a fast way to lose a lot of money, essentially, because the odds are in the dealer's favor, the house's favor. But we would have all these elaborate rules because we were faced with a problem and we were trying to figure out a solution that would help us to win. When you're dating and there's all this failure, you're just like, it's just not working. You start trying to, okay, maybe this is what's happening and maybe that's what's happening. The other impression I'm getting from Stephanie is that the way she talks, it's like someone that hasn't had really, because I get so here's the thing, here's my idea about Stephanie, and let's see if we can have some data that will bear this out. We know that she came to the States when she was quite young, I think like second grade or something, first grade. She didn't speak any English, and she was just thrown into school, and according to her story, for a year or two, she really couldn't communicate with anyone around her, and she just sat in class going, I have no idea what's happening. I mean, imagine that. I was terrified in the second grade, and I spoke the language that was being spoken. And I can't imagine not understanding the language, not having no friends, not knowing what's going on, possibly bullying that's happening. You could absolutely imagine kids picking on her, the foreign kid in class. And so you grow up feeling like an outsider. It's highly traumatic. Now, maybe later on she blossomed and had some friends, but I can imagine that also not being the case, that she struggled with relationships. I think she might have even said that. She comes into adult life and she still kind of struggles, and she has periods of time where she absolutely withdraws. She finds that a wonderful thing that fits with her anxiety and her discomfort with trusting others and interfacing with others is to be a YouTuber. She's even talked about this, how she just stays home all the time and connects with people through YouTube. And she even said, I didn't show this clip, but she admitted that she kind of puts on a persona. She comes across like she's very fashionable and but in reality, she said she's a potato, meaning that she's like a couch potato, essentially, which I think most people are. Sometimes when I hear like Brad Pitt was watching Netflix or something, I'm just like, Brad Pitt watches Netflix? Of course he watches Netflix. What else is he going to watch? There's not like some special Brad Pitt version of entertainment. And, so everyone's a couch potato. President Obama is a couch potato in all likelihood. So anyway, so she's a couch. So she identifies that. But we can also see how she might really cocoon herself a lot, and we learn actually from the Bears All episode that she had a relationship with a guy, I think in Australia, and it didn't go well. And then she just didn't date anyone for like a couple years up until this moment. And it's possible that she does that every once in a while. She's just like, okay, awkward. Things are getting triggered in me based on my past. I'm approaching these people, but I don't really trust them because of the way I was treated when I was young. I'm also don't really trusting that you're going to really like me for who I am. I have to kind of act like this different person because of what's happening on the internet. People don't really know me because I'm responding to this different kind of version of myself. And so I could see, this is all ramping up to this conclusion, which is Stephanie having a fairly young perspective on dating, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, a lot of people do, especially she's 30 and being 50, I'm here to tell you, 30 is young. You do not have it all figured out typically by the time you're 30. I mean, I think back to when I was 30, I'm just like, oh boy. So I could see her having a fairly, I don't know, like a 15-year-old, 18, 20-year-old kind of experience level to call upon an approach to dating, because I kind of hear that in her language. There's a youthfulness, and again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it could interfere a little bit because there's a simplicity in the way she's referring to things, and trying to categorize, men are like this and women are like that. I find that when people are having trouble organizing the world, they'll categorize, Democrats and Republicans and men and women and, foreigners and Americans. It's like black and white, and it helps to organize the chaos because it feels chaotic. And so let's keep that in mind. Maybe I'll scrap that theory, that hypothesis, as we get more data.
We're always analyzing what the other is saying. It's terrifying. But with men, oh my God, I just recently learned something that really just freaked me out. When a guy is having sex with you in doggy style, they can see your butthole and they look at it.
There's so many things to say. Okay, well, so first off, getting back to what she said at the end there, she was saying women read between the lines, men don't. And I didn't realize she meant this as a bad thing about her and women. She's saying, we're both constantly reading between the lines. Okay, what that tells me is what she meant by that. So I completely read that wrong. What that tells me is that her experience, when she looks back at her relationships and she looks at the ones where there was a lot of conflict, it was with women because there was like with Erica, for example, there was a lot of scrutinizing of each other. Like, you said that and you meant this and no, you meant that, and insecurity and hypervigilance and preoccupation, that kind of thing. So I'm guessing, because she seemed to exhibit a preoccupied attachment style. I don't know that. I'd have to ask her. But so maybe she matched up with a fair amount of preoccupied women, whereas the men she matched up with were not preoccupied or were avoidant, which can happen, because women are socialized, girls are socialized to be more hypervigilant towards relationships, and men are socialized to be more like a Clint Eastwood, a pathological Clint Eastwood type. Like, I don't care, everything's fine when everything is not fine. Okay, so there's that. Then she talks about how men are having this position that they're looking at a particular part of the body. What? One, okay, if someone does that, I guess that happens, but at the same time, so my wife is editing, she edits all these, reviews all these videos, and I can't wait till she watches this scene, but wait, am I blushing? I am blushing. I'm looking at myself. Anyway, okay, so I won't pause it. This is my reaction. Is this literally the first time I've blushed? All right. So she's saying that, let's rewind that. I got to hear that phrase again.
We're always analyzing what the other is saying. It's terrifying.
So just a short note on that stereotype or prejudice about, or slotting women and men into these different categories. Men can be preoccupied too. There are plenty of men who are preoccupied attachment, are very hypervigilant and are very triggered and very reactive. They can come off as more aggressive often because they're socialized that way. And so they're often, described as being narcissistic or something. Anyway, point is that she's saying that with women, we would, trigger each other in that way.
Men. Oh my God, I just recently learned something that really just freaked me out. When a guy is having sex with you in doggy style, they can see your butthole. And
okay, so she's saying it freaked me out. All right. It freaks me out that in that position, he's looking at my thing. Okay, so you have some shame about that part of the body, I guess. I don't recommend people have that kind of shame. I mean, we are terribly shaming of our bodies, and particularly those parts of our bodies. You're a human being. You have one of those things. Literally all of us have one of those things. You cannot survive. Well, I mean, I suppose you can have surgery and have a. Anyway, point is that we all have an opening. Everyone poops. You have an opening down there. And so she is she's saying that shit freaks her out. I would say, so I'm reacting to a video. Okay, so if I were to ask male friends of mine, do you look at that part when you're doing that thing? I'm guessing none of them would say yes. I don't know if that's true. I'm just going to take a guess and say that they're like, why would I? I mean, maybe some people. Anyway, what do you think? Tell me, please tell me what you think. I'm curious.
And they look at it. I was so worried about it. I took a picture of it because I was like, oh my God, how does it look? And I was like, ooh, I don't want someone looking at that.
So, you know what I mean? It sounds like a teenager. There's nothing wrong with being youthful in your development. Maybe she wouldn't even admit. She's yeah, I kind of feel like a teenager sometimes because, I've had such a, sort of start and stop situation with dating. And I do feel kind of behind, and it's a struggle. So I'm not denigrating her, but there's just she seems to be kind of, I just can't imagine a lot of, anyway, let's continue watching.
So what was the worst dating decision you've made?
Go to Australia and meet somebody I barely knew.
Oh, right.
My last relationship was a year and a half ago with a Australian photographer named Erica.
Okay, so we're learning that that was a year and a half ago for her. Yeah, that scans. So, but I thought she said she dated an Australian guy after Erica, and then I think she said she was celibate for a couple of years, and during the bears all. Anyway, maybe she'll get into it.
This pink-haired 24-year-old. We started talking after she saw one of my videos online, and I flew to Australia after we'd only been dating for a few months. I was really excited because Erica was my first female relationship. When I first saw her, I was blown away.
Okay, that's an interesting detail. She says Erica was her first female relationship. But the way she talks about women, you would think she's had many years and several relationships. I mean, maybe she has, but I could have swore during the Bears All she said after Erica, she dated a guy. It didn't go well. And then from Australia, I thought, and then she was celibate for a long time. So is she kind of basing this off extremely limited information, which would make sense. If you have extremely stereotypical or very black and white ideas and you have a sample set of like 5, that makes sense.
Oh my God! Oh my girlfriend!
It was good for like 3 days. And then things just sank like the Titanic.
Now, let's see what Stephanie says. Does she take ownership? Does she say, this was my part in it? Because if she can say that, then that lends itself to growth and being able to account for those things in her next relationship. Not that it was all her fault necessarily, but I think most of us would agree, watching the little bits that we saw, that she was at fault for part of it, that she was responsible for part of the escalation and conflict between the two of them. And during the Bears All episode, she sang this song in which she said she was going to admit some personal responsibility. And I was waiting for it during the song, and at the very end it came, where she basically said something along the lines of, people don't understand why anyone would love me, and me too. I can't remember exactly, but essentially the gist was, she was saying, I sometimes wonder why anyone would love me. I don't understand why anyone would love me. And that points at a schema that she developed at some point in her early life, that she's not lovable. And when you have that kind of schema, and you're deeply hurt all the time, like, no one loves me, no one will ever love me, and you're really worried about that, but you're desperate for love, because we all are, and then the person, Erica, gives a small sign that they don't love you, it triggers and it pokes at that trauma and says, see, there it is. There's that little sign. She doesn't love you. And then it's devastating. You get very, very hurt. A tiny hurt becomes times 100, and then you get very angry.
Erica expected this very sexual, super entertaining, perfect person, but I'm not, so
Not.
Well, that's a little discouraging. So her narrative is, it's all Erica's fault, at least at this point in her narrative. That Erica wanted this super sexual, fun, perfect person. Okay, I don't think that's what Erica was expecting. I think she was expecting warmth and physical romance, but I don't think she was requiring it. That wasn't my impression. I don't think she was looking for a perfect person. I think she was looking for a fun person. Yeah, I think she was looking for someone who, I think she was under the impression that Stephanie was extroverted and liked to party and, be out there, and Stephanie is a much more, I think, introverted person, much more shy and reserved kind of person. And yeah, that was an incompatibility, but I think Erica could have adjusted to that. I think what ended up breaking them up was Stephanie's attachment insecurity that would get triggered very quickly. Now, we don't know, like that first day there was that fight in the cafe about Erica's dating app that was still on her phone. Erica claimed it was just to talk with work people. But other people might say, well, including Stephanie, maybe she was still dating other people. And that was wrong of Erica to do that. And Stephanie had a normal reaction to that. But at the very least, my impression, the theme of their conflict was not that Stephanie wasn't perfect, or Stephanie wasn't fun, or Stephanie wasn't sexual. It was that Stephanie was easily hurt by Erica's behavior. They went to that party with the friends, and Erica's ex-boyfriend, or someone she used to hook up with, was there. And that made Stephanie jealous, which is fine. But the way Stephanie reacted to it was to feel like Erica had done her this terrible, terrible betrayal, when it was, it was just a little bit of a jealousy trigger. And then there would be tremendous hurt, and then there would be conflict, and then Stephanie would accuse Erica of being a terrible person, and then Erica would try to defend herself, and then they were off to the races.
If you can't be affectionate.
I was never intimate with Erica. I was really insecure. And just as we were making progress, I found out that she was not honest about her past.
There's supposed to be honesty between us. This is an entire 10-year relationship that you have not even told me about.
That I don't remember. I don't remember what. I remember she threw a cup at that point. But that was like when the relationship had gotten pretty bad. But she did admit, she said, I got insecure. Okay, good. I'm just like, oh, at least you can. I was getting insecure. Okay, good. Because I think that's the theme. If there's one word to her problem, was insecurity. That if she could soothe herself with the insecurity, or and then, I always say this: if you get jealous, if you get insecure, don't hide it. Just lay it on the table. Say, hey, what's happening right now is making me feel insecure. It's not your fault necessarily. I don't know. But what's happening right now is I feel like you don't really love me. I feel like I'm going to lose you. I feel like you want to be with that other person. Is that what's happening? Can you reassure me that that's not what happened? Just lay it on the table. Give the person a chance to rise to the occasion. Don't storm out and break glasses.
I broke up with her. I felt really terrible after that relationship. I felt like I was like defective.
Okay, so I don't know if she's blaming Erica for that, but that's another clue to a schema. I'm always looking for those underlying schemas that drive personality disorders. She's saying, I felt defective. Okay, so, that could be a thing. So she's exhibiting, in contrast to someone like Jessie, she's exhibiting some self-awareness. I have insecurities, it sounds like she's saying, and I have worries that I'm defective. We could absolutely see that developing when you're young and you're in class and you feel completely out of sorts. Like I can remember even when things were going well when I was young, and if there was a bad day, you just feel like you're a black and white thinker when you're just like, I am terrible. I am a horrible human being. No one loves me. You get into that state. And if that perpetuates without any kind of soothing, that can be a permanent fixture in your personality. You are defective. There is something wrong with you. Everyone knows that you are different in this way. If you show the real you, people will realize you are defective. And this is a terrible relational trauma that can be imposed on someone. And if she has that's awful.
So I think I've just realized from that relationship that I just really need somebody who's gonna be patient with me. Because I don't know how to even hug a person at this point. I am completely clueless. I've reverted to virgin, basically. Well, actually, I've been.
So good for her. She's also laying it out from the beginning. I need someone to be patient with me because it's been a long time since I've had physical contact with someone. She's, essentially, I think saying, I need physical things to go real slow for my taste here, which is a good thing to say in the beginning, and it's totally fine.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know how to have sex with somebody.
I'm gonna get us some bruschetta.
Okay.
I've been celibate for 2.5 years. Celibacy is a choice to abstain from sex.
Oh, maybe she dated someone before Erica in Australia, a man, and that was the last time she had sex. I think that's what she said to this, because she said in the Bearzall the last person she had sex with was this other fella, and it didn't go well, and she didn't have sex with Erica apparently, and so it's been 2.5 years since then. Okay.
3 years ago, which is basically a fancy word for bone marrow failure. One of the medications I was on put me into a temporary state of menopause. I essentially felt like an asexual robot. I had absolutely no desire, no sexual urges. I was dry as the Sahara Desert.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That can be another trauma to go through, obviously. Very scary to have that kind of condition. And I'm guessing what she's talking about is taking hormone treatment and or other kind of steroids, and that absolutely can have all sorts of various effects, including libido changes. And so she's describing that, and maybe there's still some residual effect from because I think she still has that disease, and maybe her medications are affecting her in that way as well. I don't know.
Down there, it was very hard to deal with that. But it's been 3 years now, and I'm happy to say that I'm in remission.
I'm socially awkward, I think. I think that's my problem.
Okay, so it sounds like what she's saying is she is no longer on the medications. Is that what, because remission implies that not necessarily, maybe there's some meds she's taking, but I don't know. I guess there's a question mark there as to if she's on meds and might they be affecting things.
Problem, because I'm hilarious.
Since my experience with Erica, I'm ready to find love and find the person I'll end my celibacy with. But I'm really not feeling any chemistry with Dave. And I don't want him looking at my butthole.
Well, you just said earlier you don't want anyone looking there. So, So if she's just joking, fine, and it's just content to talk about, or is this an obsession of hers? Because people can have obsessions like that. You can have body dysmorphias and body shame and worries along these lines, anxieties around these lines, and maybe even projections based on your own personality that can absolutely interfere with your ability to properly evaluate a situation and deal with, intimacy physically. But it's bumming me out because I kind of like this guy. He seems like it's interesting. It's refreshing to see a guy that just likes to joke. That's why I remember with Larissa, was it Eric? Because we don't see a lot of people on the show who just kind of like joke around. Just like, this is kind of an absurd situation, so I'm just going to make a joke. Because a lot of the situations on the show are kind of absurd at times. And anyway, this guy that she was on a date with, I thought he was legitimately funny and quick-witted. I was like, oh, okay. And then she's like, yeah, no chemistry, which is fine. You have chemistry with who you have chemistry with. What are you gonna do?
We're gonna be best friends.
Oh.
Yeah.
This date made me realize that ending my celibacy is going to be harder than I thought.
So that was a weird thing to say for her. Again, I don't know, but she says, I'm not really getting any chemistry. This is what she's thinking. And she says, oh, you know what? We're going to be best friends. Just say you don't like him. Just say, yeah, I'm just not feeling it. Why be passive? Unless you're genuinely wanting a friend, which that seems unlikely. But, maybe. But you would want to phrase it differently. You'd be like, you know what? I'm not feeling chemistry, but I really want you to be a friend. Can we be friends? Instead, it's like this super passive statement of, oh my God, we're going to be best friends. And he's like, we're on a date right now. Like, I'm hitting on you. What's happening right now? So, but I guess there are worse ways of giving the information to someone that you're not interested in.
But I have to be able to put myself out there.
All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.